Hello and good evening, everyone. Today's webinar topic is cybersecurity risk in capital market, awareness, resilience, and response. So, for this, we have with us Mr. Pulkit Desai, sir, co-founder and CEO of Securitech, as today's esteemed speaker. With over 25 years of leadership experience across globe IT firms, Mr. Pulkit Desai, sir, is a respected figure in the cybersecurity domain. Under his visionary leadership, Securitech has grown into a leading cybersecurity and cloud security company, serving 200 plus clients across industries. Before finding Securitech, Sir has held senior roles at renowned organizations like Wipro, NTT Data, Intel I Group, and Rolta India. A regular speaker at industry forums, Mr. Pankit Desai is deeply passionate about driving cyber awareness and resilience in today's evolving digital landscape. We are truly honored to have him share his insights today on such a critical topic. Now, a short glimpse about NISM. NISM is a public trust established in 2006 by the SEBI, the regulator of the securities markets in India. The institute carries out a wide range of capacity building awareness activities at various levels aimed at enhancing the quality standards in securities markets. Before beginning this session, I would like to request all the participants to note some important points. First, question will be taken at the end during the Q&A segment. Second, all participants will receive participation certificate within 3 to 4 working days. Third, the recording of this session will be available on the NISM's YouTube channel. Now I request Pulkit sir to begin with the session.
A very good afternoon to all of you. It's a Friday evening, so thank you so much for joining. I hope you guys can hear me very well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. I wanted to kind of preface this session with um, a contextual conversation of what we hear these days. You open up the newspapers today, and there isn't a single day where uh, we don't see a news item pertaining to some form of a cybersecurity attack or a fraud or some senior citizen getting losing money and so on and so forth. So what used to be a very restricted impact in terms of how we were to see the whole cybersecurity landscape, it has now become a mass conversation. And it's no longer a domain where it only impacted people who had money or had access to technology. Considering the fact that we all consume technology by loads, uh, I'm sitting in my office and I can see myself surrounded by at least 5 to 7 different gadgets that are part and parcel of how I operate, whether it is my smartphone or my watch or my laptop or my iPad and so on and so forth. So a lot of devices that are part and parcel of our lives, they're all connected with each other and then to the internet. And the rampant digitalization then creates a problem of its own. If I was to look at the capital markets itself, the industry that you all represent isn't any different, right? So whether it is the API trading that has now become the norm in terms of how you connect with the exchange and how terminal to the exchange interaction is without any human involved. I remember my good old days. I used to work for CMC, and the first time Bombay Online Trading Exchange Bolt platform was built by CMC for BSE. From those days where you had to go through a chain of events to reach out to carrying out a transaction, whether it is the online broking platforms where every single individual that we have today can be a trader. A lot of us have found alternate professions by trading, whether it is through the apps that are there or through the other systems and mechanisms. And then the amazing financial transformation through the Jandan Aadhaar mobile and the UPI combination that has really made interaction between the financial constituents almost seamless. So the digitalization in the financial market is, in fact, in India, we led the transformation of digital through the financial ecosystem. and capital markets have taken the most advantage of it. And we are already seeing today that whether it is SIP or the trading volumes have gone through the roof because of the ease with which our capital markets have opened up access to the one and all across the country. Unfortunately, one downside that comes in where moment you have a significantly high digital transformation is a series of security challenges. So top among them is what is called as phishing and credential compromise. I'm not sure how many of you on the webinar today are aware of it, but I'll give you a quick context of what phishing is. Phishing is a mechanism by which either through an email or through a WhatsApp or through an SMS, any channel through which you today communicate, someone reaches out to you masquerading as a legitimate conversation. And they are so accurate these days, considering the social engineering capabilities that exist and the use of AI, that a lot of people tend to fall prey to it. And most of these links have, most of these communications have email links or some website links that you click, and then you end up giving your credentials, and that becomes the reason for an attack. You have insider threats, where we just saw a recent big one that happened, which SEBI is investigating around, where you find people with information. If you're taking big positions and that information gets leaked out, that becomes a reason for violation of the SEBI norms as well as a potential attack. I spoke about the API trading, specifically when it is machine-to-machine communication. There's this capability called as a man-in-the-middle attack. There could be a potential where someone comes in between your terminal and the exchange and masquerades as you carrying out trades that you never authorized, and that could become a potential problem for you. Ransomware is a big attack vector these days. I think the third largest attack vector globally, and India is the sixth largest ransomware hit country in the world. Ransomware, again, for the folks on the call who don't know what ransomware is basically, as the name says, when you pay ransom when you are kind of hijacked, kidnapped. In this case, they take over the control of your machine. And that machine, in turn, then you have no access to. What ends up happening is the reason why the control goes away is because you might have through a phishing email that may have come in earlier, or you went to an illegitimate site. You ended up clicking on something and that downloaded a piece of software. And that software then communicates with an outside party. It's called command and control. It's some nefarious actor in the big wide dark world, which instructs that piece of software that if they find that this machine is very important for the organization or for the individual, they should go ahead and encrypt it. And unless you pay a ransom, that machine is not released. And if it happens to be a critical system of yours, and if you have not backed up any data, you have two choices: either to pay up the ransom, and if you did not have the data, then you get hopefully the data back. But if you choose not to pay the ransom and you don't have any backup, then you lose the entire piece of information. And they also do these days what is called as double extortion, by which I mean is they'll actually copy the information from your machine or the servers or the applications, as the case might be, and expose it to the dark web. And if you don't pay ransom, then they will release it for public consumption. Then obviously there's this whole case of fake trading apps, something that happened recently, not on the trading side, but on the gold trading side with Aditya Birla Group, where cloning happened and 1.95 crores, if I'm not mistaken, got lost. So, right, this is what happens with apps. And then there are these market infrastructures. There was a very public case of NYC going down 2 years back. While they never acknowledge it to be a cyber attack, in the circles, it is being touted as something that had a cyber impact attached to it. So exchanges, depositories, clearing houses, all of which are critical market infrastructure institutions. If they get impacted, then there is a significant impact to the confidence of the investing community. So these are the various threats that happen to the ecosystem. What is the impact? I spoke about the financial loss. One of the biggest hits that tends to happen, you may have a financial loss because your systems went down and you were not able to recover in time, and there is a cost of lost opportunity. You may have a scenario, and I'll talk about a financial fraud, basically a deepfake case study coming up in a couple of slides from now. But someone could change the financial information, force you to change payment information, and that could be one of the impacts if you are cyber attacked. Data theft is one of the most common thing that we see these days from an attack perspective. When the attacker comes to your environment and takes over a huge chunk of data, one of the largest broking houses, two of the largest broking houses in the country, over the last couple of years have had a very high profile data theft attack. Now, because these numbers run in lakhs and tens of lakhs, when you think about this, you not only are exposing the information of who's trading, but you'll expose the information of the positions that they take, and a very private piece of information that may then end up getting determined as to how wealthy you are. And you really do not know where this information is going. And if that information then can be potentially abused to carry out an attack on you, or your, in this case, the end consumer who's working with a broker or a depository or a fintech firm. Obviously, investor loss, if something was to go down in terms of exchange going down, or your systems having a fallacy. The Aditya Birla Group is where the investors actually had a loss, though the company made it whole. But for a period of time, there was a flutter in the market as to what happened from a attack perspective and the impact to the organization and to the individuals. In my opinion, brand reputation is the biggest price that one pays. The entire basis of a financial market is the reputation. We are built on trust. We are built on the whole thesis that if I was to put money, the entire ecosystem will make sure that my money is safe. Now, it's different things to lose money when because of a trading situation or the market situation, but it is a very completely different thing when you end up losing money or your data because of a cyber attack. That will clearly impact the brand reputation of the institutions that get impacted. As I always say, that this is not the news that you would like to see about yourself onto the newspapers or on portals any day. Market manipulation. You could have a situation where the data gets manipulated. You may include a delay in the communication between your terminal and the exchange. All of that could potentially have an impact to you as an organization. And last but not the least, there are regulatory penalties. SEBI is very strict in terms of how it wants to run this market, and for all the right sets of reasons. And these are penalties that range from civil, and in some cases not through SEBI, but to other acts in the Indian government, can be criminal in nature. So regulatory penalties is something that one has to worry about, right? So think about the cause and effect. You have a significantly transformed digital ecosystem that is clearly making an impact in terms of how we operate day in, day out. That has multiplied the entire volumes of transactions that we today carry out, not just the capital markets, but just general across the ecosystem. The cyber criminals are taking advantage of this rapid transformation And the fact also is that along with this rapid transformation, you are providing a very powerful piece of technology in the hands of individuals who may or may not be tech savvy. And while we may know how to operate an Instagram or a Zerodha app or go to the internet, we as individuals who, like if I take my parents or my siblings, may not be very clear in terms of the impacts of the actions that you take on these digital platforms. And sometimes the language becomes a barrier. Sometimes the bandwidth and the resources becomes a barrier. And sometimes just the time period that you are in where you are interacting, because of paucity of time, you may end up overlooking it. So you have the transformation, you have a significantly widespread use of technology by a set of individuals who are not very savvy technologically, creates an open field for attackers to come after you. And the fact is, today, India is the fourth largest economy, which means we have money to pay or money to lose. I mean, if you are a relatively poor country, then maybe the attackers may not be that interested, because at the end of the day, you'll carry out an attack, but if you are not going to get compensated for the attack, then why bother? But that's not the case with India. So the attackers have a field day, and you then have the impact, that is the price to pay, so to say, whether it's the financial fraud or brand reputation and data theft. So this is the ecosystem that you play in. And if you are in this ecosystem, then the regulators, the attackers cannot be far enough. So I'll do two case studies that I felt were relevant. This is a deepfake attack that we were privy to. We had been asked to do the forensics. So this is a company that had acquired another entity, and this individual, the acquired entity CEO, receives a WhatsApp message from the head office. This acquired company was outside of India. And just within a few weeks of the acquisition, the CEO gets a message saying that, hey, I'm your group CEO, whatever, and I need to talk to you. Because the number was not known, the subsidiary CEO ignored the initial message. The follow-up message was a recorded audio message by the same CEO from India saying that, hey, I've been trying to reach you and you're not responding to me. And to that also, the CEO did not respond. Finally, there was actually a voice call that happens, and the two CEOs speak. And the voice was exactly the voice that the CEO of India used to have. And this guy gets convinced that he's talking to the right person. The CEO from India then instructs the subsidiary CEO to have a conversation with a law firm in UK. And the law firm then reaches out to the CEO in the subsidiary saying that, hey, you must have been approached by your group head, and we need to carry out a transaction, and for which I need to do you a proper KYC. So an NDA is sent. And this whole communication is about a potential acquisition that the group CEO was talking to the subsidiary CEO about having in the European country. And the whole idea was that, hey, for us to carry out this acquisition, we need to include a law firm and some other services. We need to pay the lawyers. And because it is rolling up to your entity in Europe, you will have to run this transaction. And the law firm then sends in an NDA, and they start interacting. But the entire process is taking line. And all the while, the head office CEO is reaching out saying, why are you not closing this transaction? I have already told you this so many times. And now the subsidiary CEO is under pressure because he felt that the delay was originally at his end, and now there is this whole process that is being done. And while he was trying to be diligent, it seemed to be getting stuck. They then start discussing the cash availability and also the request for fund transfer. All the while, all conversations are happening. There seems to be no urgency from the law firm to receive the money. The urgency seems to be from the India side trying to push to close the transaction. So you can now see how the entire psychology is being built, trying to create pressure on this individual CEO in the subsidiary that you better do this very quickly, but the other side is not willing to kind of budge fast. Anyway, finally, after a few days, the agreements do get signed, and the CEO transfers about $700,000 from his account to the law firm's account. And this company, the Indian company, was a relatively small organization. So the processes were anyway kind of weak. But they come to know at the end of the quarter when they did bank reconciliation with the subsidiary, they had about $1 million in the bank, €1 million in the bank actually. And when they figured out that they were short by about 300,000, and then the investigation started, and that's when this whole thing came out. So think about it. This is a fairly long-winded process that was carried out, which took advantage of the fact that you are across geographical time zones. You have language barriers. You may not know each other very well. And there is this power distance that was exhibited by the Indian CEO saying, I'm the boss and you better listen to me. And therefore, the individual, because he was a newly acquired company, may not have had the wherewithal to push back. And that is what was used. The money disappeared. The cases were filed. And within about 12 hours, the entire money trail went cold. So that's how fast this post-money transfer, the attack kind of dissipated and nothing came out of it. This is the other case, which is a very public case of a Robinhood breach. So in this case, the attacker called the call center of Robinhood and posed himself as an internal employee and started having conversation and build a rapport with the call center person, talking about a lot of common things that only an internal person would be aware of, and kind of established a level of trust with the call center. And under the pretext of trying to solve some problem that was impacting their customers, he managed the support staff. He manipulated rather the support staff to share information and get access to the system by getting credentials, which were should have been guarded and should have had a set of processes that were double validated. Because the trust was established, because they were able to convince the person on the other side that they were legitimate, the standard process protocols were bypassed. And once the credentials were given and this customer portal was accessible from outside, he was able to gain access to the customer portal. And about 5 million records got, and then 2 million with full names and date of birth and a bunch of other sensitive information got leaked. All in all, about 7 million individual records were leaked. Significant penalties were imposed on Robinhood, but that's not the point. Point is that when you are dealing on the cross-section of people, process, and technology, any weak link in any of these could be abused by the attacker. So in this case, there's clearly a problem from an awareness perspective as far as the people are concerned. And then on the process side, there was a lot of lacuna where information was shared on phone calls, which should have gone through some better way of exchanging. Even if it was a legitimate request, there has to be a way by which you can cross-verify and the access to be given only through official channels and not on phone, because phone is still an unofficial channel of communication. So both these cases are a reflection. The first one is a deepfake, where the entire attack got carried out outside the realm of a cyber security process, because it was done on a WhatsApp channel. No systems of organizations were covered, because you're talking between two private channels of WhatsApp. This one, it started on a public channel, got abused on the private channel, and then got leaked on the private channel, and then got abused on a public channel. So this gives you an idea about how sophisticated the attacks are. I mean, there are lots of different attacks that I did not cover, but these were the ones that I felt kind of relevant to the conversation that we are having as to how the attackers have been meaningfully going after organizations and creating. So in first case, it was a financial risk of about $700,000. And in this case, is a data theft, both of significant nature. The moment you have a security related challenge, you will start seeing significantly high government intervention or regulatory intervention. And these are some of the ones that we captured from across the globe, whether it is Asia, India, US, Europe. So one has to be now very, very watchful about the kinds of regulatory interventions that we may end up facing, considering the overall risk that we are seeing in the market. Specific to capital markets, if I was to look at it, SEBI last year released a very, very comprehensive set of guidelines covering the entire capital markets ecosystem. The name is a mouthful: CSCRF, Cybersecurity Controls for Resilience and Security, across the entire suite of capabilities from a tech perspective. As if this was not enough, there is already a pre-existing guideline by CERT-IN. CERT-IN stands for Cyber Emergency Response Team. IN is for India. This is a Government of India body, which mandates any organization that has been breached or has a security impact needs to report an incident within 6 hours. And there is financial penalty as well as criminal penalty if you don't report it. There is a DPDP Act, that is a Data Privacy Act, that is coming up. It is passed by the Parliament. It has still not been notified. It's expected to be notified this year. That has a very serious financial penalty, up to 250 crores for organizations if they breach personal data. And in the capital markets, everything that we all do is personal data only. NCIIPC is National Critical Information Infrastructure. These are critical infrastructure elements: stock exchanges, clearing houses, depositories, utilities, telecoms, airlines, airports, power generation, power distribution. All of these fall under this. And they have a set of guidelines that need to be adhered to. And last but not least, there is an IT Act that was passed in 2008, and then there's an amendment in 2011. A lot of what we see in newspapers where cases are filed, where FIRs are filed under the IT Act. So there's a very large spectrum of regulatory coverage that we all have to, for people who on the call who are with enterprises, have to be really watchful about, because in some shape and form, these laws impact you. And unfortunately, as they say in India, the process is the punishment. So whether you have done right or wrong, if you are caught on the wrong side of this regulation, there is a significant hassle that one will have to go through. Just wanted to quickly talk about the resilience framework that is there. The key objectives as I had mentioned, SEBI is very interested in really beefing up the cybersecurity posture across. And they've covered this time a complete length and breadth of the constituents of the capital markets. So the market infrastructure institutions, the broking companies, all the mutual funds, private equity, AIFs, portfolio managers, RTAs, name it. If you are regulated by SEBI, then you are covered by this regulation. And it covers the entire aspect from the whole governance related issues to detection, to protections, to response, everything that is there under the realm of security gets getting covered. Broadly, it has three areas. There's an element of audit, there is an element of protection, and there's an element of coverage. So the audit is everything around setting up a very comprehensive set of security policies, which will ensure that you have the right frameworks and the building blocks that one will need to ensure that your organization understands your existing security posture and what needs to be done to remediate it. It covers your complete infrastructure, your applications. In a lot of cases, there may be third-party applications. You will do the audits to find the gaps, both process audits and technical audits. All those gaps have to be remediated. And the deadline is, as of now, the August of end of next month is when it's supposed to be completed. They have given a couple of extensions. Not sure if another extension is due, but at this point of time, the date stands at 31st of August. So very comprehensive set of compliance requirements coming from audit. On the security side, a lot of things happening around ensuring that all those policies that have been put in place are something that you are adhering to. So red teaming exercise is basically where you act like an attacker and try to break a system and carry out varieties of tests to make sure that your systems are properly strengthened and less susceptible to an attack. SOC stands for Security Operations Center. That's a capability where your entire environment is monitored 24/7. So between these three pillars and a lot of underlying technologies in these cases that will need to be implemented, SEBI is looking to comprehensively improve the cybersecurity posture of the entire capital market ecosystem. RBI has already done it for the banks, for NBFCs, for payment wallet companies, for third-party providers, outsourcing providers to the banking industry. So they have done a lot of work to improve the overall cyber posture. A very similar thought process is now being envisaged by SEBI and is being rolled out, and so is being done by the IRDA for insurance. So we have, as constituents who are playing in this ecosystem, have to be completely aware not only of the overall cybersecurity risk, but we will have to be aware of how we're going to respond to the compliance requirements. I just wanted to give a perspective. Till now, we spoke about the overall technology transformation, the security impact of the transformation, the couple of case studies of what has happened in real life, what is the regulatory posture. But the fundamental question stays, what should I do? So while SEBI has given a very detailed guideline, I wanted to kind of give a very quick view of what are the simple basic hygiene that one can follow. And I have split this into two components. One is as it relates to enterprises, and the second is as it relates to individuals, because I'm given to understand that on this call, there may be individuals also, and we also as people who work in the company are also individuals who use technology for our personal uses or are using it at home. So what are the two elements on both sides that one can look at in terms of beefing up the overall posture? Let's start. In both scenarios of the case study that I spoke about, employee awareness is absolutely essential. I always say the biggest malware is the human malware. because at the end, it is the gaps that we as individuals create in our systems by violating the process or lack of understanding or the naivete that creates a problem for us. SEBI has emphasized a lot on this, but regular security audits is very, very essential to ensuring that your hygiene stays up to date. If you are a corporate, please do not use corporate email IDs for personal usages. People tend to use it for your online portals, whether you are talking about travel portals or marriage portals or LinkedIn or a bunch of other places. Please do not use your corporate email ID, because if those portals get breached, the attacker will know the email ID format as well as your password format, and then it becomes relatively easier for them to go after your corporate infrastructure. Absolutely strong password policies are very essential. These have to be changed periodically, 45 days, 90 days, depending on the criticality of your industry. But the standard 123 admin, your name and birth date are not an acceptable password. It's very easy to guess and crack. Least privilege principle is a principle by which you ensure that employees in the organization have access to only those systems that they should have access to. Unfortunately, in India, access equals to power. If I am higher up in the organization, I need to have much more access than someone else. Which means that if I get breached and if I have a disproportionate amount of access, I create that much more problem for the organization. Every piece of software that exists in your environment, A, better be original, by which I mean non-pirated. And second, they have to be updated regularly. Because a lot of attacks that happen is on outdated software, which then provide legitimate ways for someone to come into your environment. I spoke about the ransomware related issues. And one way you can choose not to pay or you can avoid paying ransom is if you really have a very good data backup and recovery process. Because then you are not bothered if your systems are encrypted, because you can always format it, restart it, and you have a backup of your data, you can easily come back. There are standard security technologies, whether on the network side or on the device side or on the cloud side. They will not burn a hole through your pocket. It is advisable to invest in the bare minimum, making it that much more difficult for attackers to come after you. We all use Wi-Fi very extensively, and I've seen Wi-Fis in companies that are accessible for outside people that you give them access to, but that they tend to get connected to the network. So it's very easy for me to come through that and breach your corporate environment. Third-party vendor risk is very, very high these days of fintech and a lot of other technologies that are part and parcel of our life. Means that a lot of technology that we use in companies is not built by us. Not only are these softwares not ours, but the softwares and the attached processes are run by third parties. And they then tend to interact with our systems or others are third-party systems. So if there is a gap in one of them, that can then become a reason for attack to the other. As they say in security, you are as good as your weakest link. So if your third party is a weakest link, then you have a problem sitting at your hand because they can go after you. After all of the above, you still have to assume that you will still be under attack because the attacker has to succeed only once and you have to succeed every single time. So it's very important to have an incident response plan. A good analogy of this would be the firefighting systems in the company. I mean, no one wishes for a fire outbreak, but all of us have regular fire drills to make sure that in case of a fire, what do we do? Likewise, we have to have a system and a process by which we say, in case of an incident, what will we do? What are the first 5 things that we will do? Because a lot of time we get caught like a deer in the headlights because we have not jotted down what needs to be done in case of an incident. very, very essential to have a cyber insurance coverage, because the insurance may not make you whole, but for your recovery, if you need money and access to technology and access to specialists, without an adequate cyber insurance coverage, you are not going to get that, sorry. And the other thing that cyber insurance will do is that before giving insurance, they will do a hygiene check. Will also improve your overall hygiene posture because you've done that. Last but not the least, you have to work with the law enforcement. It is always advisable in case of an attack. So while you will report to certain and you will report to SEBI and all of that, it is good to file an FIR depending on the kind of the attack, because the law enforcement, again, may or may not be able to help you, but it will generally create an awareness and a process that can prevent some other such attacks happening to your fellow citizens and companies. So this is what I would recommend one could look at from an enterprise perspective. Let's talk about the individuals. So what can the individuals do? So we have to be safe online. This is an acronym of the 10 things that one can look at. You have to ensure that you secure your personal devices, your laptops and desktops with anti-malware. Very often I've seen that we are very happy to buy a 30,000-40,000 rupees laptop, but we shy away from buying a 300-400 rupees antivirus product or anti-malware product. This is the least that we can do. If you can't afford that also, there are this open source freemium malwares available, anti-malwares available. Always advisable to look at buying something like that. Like for the enterprises, applies here as well. Please back up your data. You should have a copy of your data available somewhere, which is not on the system, maybe on the cloud, maybe on a separate device. The cost of a USB storage device is peanuts these days. In less than $50, you will get a decent size storage capacity that can back up your data. We are very loose with our identity. So your user ID, passwords, please make sure that your identity is absolutely secure. On data privacy, we have to make sure that you understand that where your data is going. We go to all of these websites and give them permissions to use our information. Now, in some cases, like a Google Maps, is absolutely essential, without which you can't work. But the least I would do, and especially the phones these days, do give you a good idea that tells you what is the kind of your personal data that is being harvested by these apps and portals. And I understand that you may not have much of a choice but to use the technology, but at least be watchful and mindful of what is being taken. And if you can avoid it, avoid the platforms completely, because your data is your personal gold mine. And why should you let someone else take advantage of it? Now, the last 6 of the acronym online, you need to make sure that you are on authentic websites and apps. You will have to do that much of due diligence. You may get links on emails asking you to go to a bank website or a mutual fund portfolio or your broking site. Please make sure that the spellings of those websites are correct, because they may have one alphabet here or there, or there could be, if you have an A in the name of the website, then that A may have 2 dots on it, but rest everything is same. These are all called fuzzy domains, similar sounding names, but you better be sure of what they are before you decide to start giving your personal information. Like in enterprises, in case of a breach, in case of an attack, please report to the cybercrime. Do not share your passwords, even with your family members, is what my biggest ask is. Your OTPs and login details have to be sensitive, because if they are shared, if they get breached, your login details will get breached, right? It's not about transparency. You have to be very watchful about how you are going to hold a very sensitive information of your login ID and credentials. SEBI has been saying that again and again, but there are this lot of this nefarious characters who pretend to be advisors and are generating platform information. Before you start trusting them, there is a list on the website of SEBI. Please make sure that they are legitimate and are approved by SEBI before you start trusting them with information. It is very, very important to have a hygiene that we build for ourselves, not just for us, but the extended family. Your parents, your kids, your spouses, your siblings, all of these best practices, it is good to go back and create that kind of awareness, because your children, your devices may be used by your children when you go back home. And while you may be very, very watchful about how you use your device, they may not be that much aware, and any uh, inadvertent activity done by them will come back to bite you, because then that attacker is now in the system. And then when you're going to a legitimate website to carry out a transaction, they can really understand what you have been doing and how you've been operating. And the last thing is, if you are shutting down your machine, exit everything and get a clean exit. This habit of leaving your devices on connected when you're not using is a very dangerous practice, because a connected device on an internet is an exposed device every single point of time. And if you are not watching it and no one else is watching it on your behalf, you are giving a free ride to someone. So that's all I had to cover. We are about time. It's about 14 minutes left. Happy to answer any questions. So I am seeing a couple of questions. One is from Anirban Das. What role does AI or machine learning play in real-time threat detections in capital markets? Great question, Anirban. So attackers, as I had mentioned, are already using AI to carry out attack. But on the defense side also, there is a lot of innovation that has happened from an AI perspective. So if you rewind back, original security products used to work on what was called as a rules-based engine. Simplistically put, it would say if an event A happened followed by an event B, then it equals to threat C, which meant that someone had to write all such potential permutations and combinations. With AI and machine learning, you can train your algorithms on varieties of such scenarios, allowing you to then automatically learn and understand what variations are coming in and how to respond to it. So a lot of activities happening on the detection side. Likewise, on the response side, once an attack is identified, a lot of automated remediations are happening. A lot is happening to ensure that frauds are detected much earlier by user behavior patterns analysis that you do. So a lot is happening using AI. Second question is, are the cybercrimes in securities market different than that of average money or bank cybercrimes? So that I would not say different. The difference is between the way enterprises get breached and individuals get breached. In enterprises case, it tends to be a sophisticated attack, because for most part, enterprises have built good amount of defense mechanism, and they are therefore trying to find ways to breach it, either through social engineering attacks or through misconfigurations or vulnerabilities in the system. So that's how they try and find. For individuals, they tend to play on the lack of understanding, lack of capabilities of the individual that use this fairly smart technology. If you, I don't know how many of you were there in 90s doing tech. I am the 90s kid. I started working in my corporate life in 90s. The good supercomputer that day or good mini computer that day had a power that was less than 1,000th of what your smartphone today has. So let's look at the capacity, the the emerging technologies that are coming in, and the enormous capacity that these technologies now can be leveraged for using the devices on your hand. And that in turn creates an opportunity for attacker to come after it. Anirban has a question. How are SEBI regulated entities required to respond to a cyber breach? Is there a mandatory reporting timeline? So yes, there is a reporting timeline, but the timeline for SEBI, I need to check, but I think it's about 24 hours or 72 hours. I'm not exactly sure. I'll come back to you on one. But there is a certain guideline which will take precedence of 6 hours any which way. So you will have to report to certain within 6 hours of a breach. Can you put light on the scores portal? But that scores portal, if I'm not mistaken, was mostly around the redressal side. I'm not too sure what is the relevance here from a security standpoint, unless you as an individual, your data got breached and there was a lack of response from the regulated entity. Maybe that's the only thing that I can see correlation on. Are there any government alerts about current scams and breaches? Yes, you can go to certain website, and if you subscribe, you will see a lot of this information. In fact, there is a tool that is there that can remotely scan your machine. They announce a lot of advisories. Companies as such as us, we issue advisories, certain issue advisories. There are ways for you to figure out and receive information from that. Government policies for cybersecurity in financial entities, I already covered. So between RB, so government does not directly interact with the entities. They are coming through the regulators. So between SEBI, RBI, IRDA, and NHB, between these four entities which regulate the financial ecosystem in the country, there are hordes of guidelines that have come that are mandated for the constituents to be able to use. What are the most effective antivirus solutions? There are a lot of them. So from there are a lot of Make in India products like an eScan or a K7 or a Quick Hill, and then the multinational ones like a Norton or a Trend Micro. So in my opinion, most of them do a decent enough job for us as individuals, and therefore there is no harm in looking at any of them. It is important to have them, start with them, and then obviously depending on your risk appetite, you may take, it's like you can go from point A to point B using Wagoner, and you can also go via Mercedes. It depends on what your financial appetite is. So what about crypto scams? So the WazirX, I think, see, a lot of crypto scams happen through credential stealing and identity stealing. So crypto by nature is otherwise not breakable, but there is nodes that operate, and you can potentially compromise a node. And once a node is compromised, or a significant amount of nodes are compromised, then they start certifying themselves, and that becomes then there's no mechanism because there's no arbitrator there, and you can have an issue sitting out there. Or you may have a crypto account and you use your wallet details and someone takes it away. I know someone who lost 16 crores on a crypto wallet and nothing much he could do because he had given that individual the power to manage his account because this person was not very savvy and he officially took it away, and there's no way that crypto exchange could do anything because of a legitimate transaction. I'm looking to implement full disk encryption. So there are this encryption tools available. PGP encryption used to be there. There are the others also, I don't remember the name, but you can take any encryption tool. Just be aware of one thing, that encryption by nature will slow your system down. So you need to think about what you want to encrypt. Maybe better way is to encrypt some files that you are worried about versus the whole disk. But if it is too much of an effort, then you can go for a whole disk encryption. Do you think the security market, shareholders e-vote is a reliable process? Because I've seen most of the time they send to a secure site. I need to check. I have no personal experience on it, but you are bringing up a good point. Let me check and come back to you, Surajit, sorry. Is cookie capture our data? Yes, cookies capture your data, middle. And these days they are required to tell you what those cookies are for. So something which will be like a strictly necessary cookie, just accept that. The one which says for performance or marketing purposes, please don't accept that. I have no idea about the Jane Street. I'm not a capital market expert. Won't be able to help you on the Jane Street story. There's a question on receiving certificate or not. I think that's for the NISM team to answer. CAPTCHAs, I've not seen that they're infected with malware. So maybe there is there. I'm not aware of that. What is the role of CERT in capital market security? So there are two types of CERT. One is CERT in, which is at a national level, and then there is a CERT for financial markets. The CERT in that looks at the overall cyber posture for the country, and they aid and support the other sector CERTs. As I said, they issue advisories, they work with institutions in creating policies, they issue threat content, and also, as I mentioned, for any breach, you have to report to them. The sector certs, on the other hand, work with the constituents. They'll work with the banks and the capital market institutions to get them to share information amongst themselves. So when a specific attack pattern comes in, or we are seeing a specific type of an attack being predominant in a certain segment, they will make the others in the segment aware, saying that this is the kinds of actors that we are seeing in. These are the countries from where these attacks are originating from. These are how the attacks are looking like, and what are the remedial measures that you should say. So a lot of information sharing happens within the sector to allow the sector to respond better, so that that information doesn't get restricted with only one entity or one domain. What role is AI playing in making online scams more believable and harder to attack? The case study that I spoke about is that as well. This is the single biggest problem, AI, and the kind of believability that it creates in terms of how you look, I did not cover another scam where there was a WhatsApp video call done by two individuals in a company, and one of the individuals is actually fake, and they ended up transferring 1.5 crore rupees on a video call. So they are absolutely believable. I always will advise that if it is a matter of financial transaction, giving access to something or data, you have to be doubly, triply sure before you do the transaction, and therefore is called as something was called as out of band verification. So if you and I are talking on a WhatsApp video call and you are asking me something that seems out of ordinary from a request perspective, you better put the phone down, and then through other mechanism, through a landline or reaching out to someone else that you know who knows the person, re-verify if the ask was genuine. Can we expect a notable increase in? Yeah, I'm assuming, yeah, prices will, stocks are doing well. This is one of the few tech sectors that seems to have bucked the trend as far as growth is concerned. I think we are at the end of the time. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the time you spend and the kinds of questions you asked. Thank you so much once again. Thank you to the NISM team. Do you want to take it over for closing remarks?
Thank you so much, sir. I would like to extend our heartfelt thanks for taking the time and speaking at our webinar. Your insights, expertise, and engaging presentation made a lasting impact on our audience. Thank you once again for sharing your time and knowledge with us. Wishing you a wonderful day. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.